Good morning and welcome to the St. Philip's in the Hills 2022 Hybrid Annual Meeting. I'm Father Robert Hendrickson, the Rector here, and I will begin us with a prayer. Ever living Father, watchful and caring, our source and our end. All that we are and all that we have is yours. Accept us now in this place dedicated to you, to which we come to praise your name, to ask your forgiveness, to know your healing power, to hear your word, and to be nourished by the body and blood of your Son. Be present always to guide and to judge, to illumine, and to bless your people. Amen. That prayer is from the Book of Common Prayer from the consecration of a church, and we'll close with one more prayer from that same service. This has been a year of transition and challenge and uncertainty. It has also been a year that is marked by the joy of returning to in-person worship, continuing to minister in new ways online, and resuming the kinds of care, formation, and outreach we missed during the height of the pandemic. In many ways, this was a tougher year than 2020. Once we had gone into online worship and formation, things had a certain consistency that was predictable. We also had a consistent staff remaining essentially unchanged through 2020. 2021, with not only the resumption of in-person activities, but also maintaining an online presence, has brought almost weekly changes to our life in some way or another. For example, just as we were beginning to return to in-person worship, we discovered that the beginning school would be closing. This happened as Mother Kelly, Father Mark, and Lois Britton all had recently left or would soon be leaving. So returning to in-person life meant returning to things being in even more flux than we had imagined. I want to begin today by thanking my colleagues on staff for their ministry and faithfulness through these past 2 years. It is a joy to work alongside people from whom I learn every day and who model for me a loving dedication to their work. I can't imagine what the last couple of years would have looked like without them, and I'm so grateful to have them helping to plan for our future as we regather. I also want to thank those who have served on vestry as wardens and our treasurer. Whether it was weekly vestry meetings, rapid adjustments to COVID, or patience as we navigated so many changes and challenges, you have been represented by a group of leaders of whom you can be immensely proud. They all bring a prayerful commitment to guiding this community as stewards of all that we have inherited from those who came before us. And I want to thank you. So many have told me what it means to have been and to continue to be able to gather online and to return to in-person services. You've been committed, faithful, patient, and that has made all the difference as we have made our way to today. I mentioned some of the changes, and I'll begin in sort of the area of administration. Both of our wardens changed this past year as Sunny Ball retired and Mary Margaret and Jonathan Sprinkle moved to Nashville. Thankfully, folks with long experience and immense skills agreed to step in. And I'm so appreciative to John Bermond and to Bonnie Wynn for serving in these critical positions. A major time and energy investment was the overseeing of the August closure after 33 years of the beginning school, as I mentioned. We began to negotiate with a new operator, Catalina Preschool and Kindergarten, which opened on January 3rd. This shift required an enormous number of person hours, both administratively and in the form of facility attention. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mother Mary Trainer for an enormous amount of work and dedication to seeing that come to fruition. Our Clay Studio operators chose to close their doors and retire rather than return from the initial COVID phase. Mother Mary and Myron Molson have negotiated arrangements for the studio's reopening, likely in March, under the name St. Philip's Clay. Eric Johnson, who worked with the previous operators, will be the lead instructor. Mother Kelly's office space was converted into a living room style meeting space that is called the Rector's Lounge. And you should know I didn't pick that name. Someone else picked it and the sign was up before I could object. So it's the Rector's Lounge, but it's actually all of your lounge too. And that adjoins the common room in the office building. We've acquired and are about to operationalize a new facilities management software, which can not only schedule rooms for use, but track maintenance and repair requests, and even can be so advanced as to adjust the temperature in different rooms in the building at different times of day. 12-step groups and some others have resumed in-person meetings with masks and social distancing. We've acquired 2 OWL devices, which facilitate hybrid meetings, that is in-person and Zoom. And since spring of 2020, we have not ever achieved our historic occupancy patterns. Administrative and business functions are still in transition, with the departure in August of Lois Britton and in January of Anthea McCarty. We have a temporary to permanent bookkeeper now, Shelby Parsons, who is doing an incredible job. Our treasurer, Herb Burton, and Finance Committee member Craig Tutman, along with Mary Trainer, are working to update our accounting methodology to be online wherever possible. Not only this will provide easier to access records, it will drastically reduce the amount of paper that we use and store around here. We are currently interviewing a receptionist for the front office to assure timely handling of calls and messages, as well as offer hospitality and assistance to in-person visitors. The receptionist will also handle some data entry and short-term project management. In communications, the weekly e-newsletter, The Bell and Tower, continues to be in the able hands of Kiki Cheney, and Mother Mary serves this effort on a consulting basis at Kiki's request. Thanks to a gift, we've added a 32-inch television in the office area. In time, this will contain an electronic calendar of events. A larger screen television has been installed elsewhere for Zoom meetings, especially where display of art or graphics or the like is needed. Once it became obvious that live stream services are here to stay, we secured a local company that specializes in this work, and you'll see a gradual increase in the professionalism of our Sunday morning live stream. A huge thanks are due to Herb Burton, Sylvia Burton, and Craig Tutman on our Finance Committee. Herb has been an absolute rock through these really challenging years. Our finances are guided by his steady leadership, and we are frankly in a far better place than many of us might have expected at the beginning of the pandemic. And that's thanks to his tireless commitment. When you have a chance, I hope that you will thank him, because that dedication has been crucial. I also want to take a moment to thank Sally Larson for her work as the chair of the Ministry Endowment and Funds Trust. She will be retiring as board chair this year, as their bylaws require. Those of you who know Sally know she is a person of insight and character, humor and faith, and she has brought all of those gifts to her role as board chair. Moreover, she has brought those gifts to shepherding your generosity. I hope you will thank her for being such a critical part of our leadership in recent years. I'm pleased to report that another person with enormous gifts and a deep knowledge of life at St. Philip's, Nancy Atherton, will assume chairing that board later this year. All those resources, all that administration supports our ability to serve the wider community. Even as we made those changes and faced these transitions, we were exploring new opportunities in outreach and mission. Through the pandemic in 2020 and into 2021, St. Philip's Feeding Ministries Working Group made a difference at the church, in the Tucson community, and beyond. The ministry organized contribution drives that benefited multiple nonprofits: Casa Alitas, Casa Maria, Garwood Elementary in Phoenix, which was in partnership with the Arizona chapter of the Union of Black Episcopalians, Imago Dei School, Interfaith Community Services, Primavera, Rio Visto School, Sister Jose Women's Shelter, St. Christopher's Episcopal Mission in Navajo Land and Bluff, Utah, St. James Methodist Church Food Pantry, the St. Philip's Food Pantry. With the work and help of Mother Taylor and parishioner Landon Swanson, volunteers applied for and received grants from the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona and the Episcopal Churches United Thank Offering. They also obtained commercial certification of the St. Philip's Kitchen. There are multiple pilot projects that build fellowship, outreach, and revenue streams for outreach ministries. The Feeding Ministry continues its partnership with the YWCA of Southern Arizona, and this collaboration will make St. Philip's Commercial Kitchen available for the YWCA's pilot program for aspiring micro-food entrepreneurs. And last but by no means least, a huge thank you to the many people of St. Philip's who supported all of these efforts. If you'd like to learn more or join these ministries, you can contact Deacon Susan Erickson at susanerickson27@gmail.com. Other outreach efforts continued. We are pivoting a little bit with Laundry Love. We're now partnering with ICS to distribute gift cards and laundry supplies to those in need through their East Side office, where in-person events remain risky. We remain one of the highest contributing faith communities to the Pima County Interfaith. The Food Pantries ministry has expanded in numbers, those receiving, those donating, and in some capacity. We now offer fresh fruit routinely there. And many, many thanks are due to those who have worked tirelessly to welcome the refugee family from Syria we welcomed this year. That team has included Gary Huckleberry, Brad Johns, Jackie Johns, Chelsea Bailey, Nancy Atherton, Aidan Carroll, Jane Prescott-Smith, Julia Roshan, Leah Sanwell Weiss, Ann Wilbanks, Virginia Catt, Conrad. This is a Syrian Kurdish family that is Muslim. The father has found work and a friend with whom he rides to work. The 3 children are settling into school and everyone is getting medical attention. The family has been through a lot and are settling in with the help of Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest. They arrived in December and the hope is that they will be settled in and self-sufficient by about 6 months, at which point the team will determine how to proceed. Perhaps to welcome another family, perhaps to support this one in different ways. Thank you for your personal and financial generosity, which has made so much possible with this family. New furniture, new bedding, a fresh start, and lots of relational support in their new home. Also in the area of outreach, Gwen Powell has been spearheading developing a new concert series for young artists. This will evolve in cooperation with the music program and a newly forming music committee that is part of a development of mission teams that I will talk about later. I'm so thankful for Gwen's energy and excitement for this project. We had originally planned on beginning this spring, but due to the COVID spike, we've decided to delay that until the fall. Another part of our outreach ministry is Beloved in the Desert. First, you can mark your calendar for March 18th. There's a Zoom fundraiser in the evening for Beloved. There's a need for financial support in this moment of shift in the culture, in young adult ministry, in who is the church and how are we called to serve. And the Episcopal Service Corps, of which Beloved in the Desert is a part, is considered by many to be on the cutting edge of the church. It's a testing ground for how we serve alongside the next generation. It's also a gift to young adults to discern and grow in resilience in community and personal life. Locally, we have contributed over 15,000 hours of community service to Tucson in 3 years through Beloved in the Desert. We've deepened relationships with nonprofits that have helped us to react quickly in the pandemic and has helped neighbors at this critical time. In our 3 years existence, the world has changed and we have not increased our placement fees, the core members' stipends, or the administrative costs. Our placement fee is $15,000 to partner nonprofits. Some nonprofits can pay this, but the amount that would really make the program feasible on program fees alone would be about $20,000. And we bridge that gap each year by writing grants and asking for support. The board has had some strategic conversation about the need for more stability financially while steering this important ministry in a difficult time. So thank you for your prayer, your financial support. We've done a lot to connect in a constrained time and are imagining what's possible as we move forward with expanded support. The current core members are serving with Habitat for Humanity, the Community Food Bank, St. Philip's, and Interfaith Community Services. They're each expanding capacity in critical programs in their organizations, and they're starting to look at what's next when they become alums of the program in May. Our alums are serving in churches. 4 are on the ordination discernment track. 1 is in school for theology. Several serve in nonprofits. Another is in an MSW program. All are contributing to their communities with their skills for resilience, prayer, and an intersectional approach to faith and justice. This year, Claire, Chris, and Kaylee offered a youth forum on service and justice. Claire and Chris regularly serve in the choir. Alums Sam and Alex are choir members, with Sam being a lay clerk. Alums Sam, Alex, and Luke are convening the Episcopal Campus Ministry for other students and young adults, while the chaplain at the university, Ben Guerin, is on sabbatical. They are showing a great deal of joyful leadership. They write daily breads, get to know people as they can, and they provide opportunities for service and consult with the outreach programs that are often connected with their placements. The board for Beloved in the Desert, following through on strategic goals set for 2021, is looking toward increasing the financial sustainability of the program and expanding how we're able to serve in the city. And I want to thank those who continue to serve on the board: Liz Wood, Alex Swain, Erica Johnson, Carol Jones, Chuck Kirchner, Jeanette Renouf, Beth Burlett. And to those rolling off the board this year, and a special thanks, Eileen and Don Beach, who have served faithfully from the very beginning. Mother Taylor and Alex Swain are working closely on day-to-day Beloved in the Desert tasks and strategic goals with a lot of help from the rings of support that are provided to this community of communities. One effort that is being made possible in part because of the work of Beloved in the Desert is the Compline project that we've been undertaking. Thanks to a grant from Princeton and the Lilly Foundation, we have been able to lay the groundwork for a community-based Compline service that will begin in March. I'm thankful to the dedicated work of Chris Campbell and Alex Swain in helping to bring this together. The service, which will be called Night Song, a Compline experience, will take place at the Annex in the Mercado district with the mountains, city, and sky as a backdrop. It is an incredible venue. Our partners include Phlam Chun, which plans and puts together the Tucson All Souls Parade every year. They've been incredible in helping us think about how to reach a new generation of folks who are seeking and searching for meaning in these changing times. 150,000 people take part in the All Souls procession, so having this partnership as we launch Night Song is an immense gift and enables St. Philip's to connect with a cultural signpost of life in the city. In thinking about how to reach the next generation, of course, a critical part of that is developing our own children, youth, and family ministries programming. The youth meet in a rotation of Bible study youth groups by age group and all youth group. They are led by Virginia Catt, Adina Hall, Aidan Carroll, and Claire Miller. This year, the youth identified the areas they most wanted to learn about as they intersect with their faith, and environmentalism was the issue that came up the most. So we are learning a lot about God and ourselves and each other through that lens, with fellowship hikes, a visit from a desert museum horticulturalist, and are excited for an upcoming service project, Pulling Buffalo Grass. Planning for confirmation and pilgrimage is ongoing. The children meet in the nursery and levels 1 and 2 of the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. 4th and 5th graders meet in our focus this year on the Old Testament, art and God's love and mercy. They are led by Harry Claiborne, Deacon Ruthie Hooper, Gay Izzard, Leo Penn, and Erica Weidenschilling. Parents formation is led by Janet and Michael Linton and Chelsea and Tim Bailey, with shared facilitation by other parents. Topics have ranged from processing COVID realities to building ritual into family life, to the importance of story, ours and God's and beyond. Children and youth leaders and parents meet in groups with Mother Taylor quarterly. From July of 2020 through August of 2021, Harriet and Deacon Ruthie met weekly to make videos of Catechesis of the Good Shepherd lessons. And they made kits they distributed to families around Tucson. Their faithfulness to the children of the parish, making sure they knew they were never forgotten, is remarkable. Comfy Space Online persisted throughout the intense periods of the pandemic, along with the beginning of and continuance of a fellowship time for the kids and youth. After Easter, Comfy Space has continued in the nave on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock. Since we kicked off the year in October a little later than normal because of COVID, we have consistently met every Sunday in person. Upon Father Mark's departure in October, Mother Taylor stepped in to steward the CYFM program. With the help of the formation leaders, the new team of program advisors, parents, and staff, everyone is looking for ways to be truly intergenerational as a church, even as we offer age-appropriate formation opportunities. This has included expanding youth and children's leadership in the church on Sunday morning, the occasional visit to youth group by a ministry area team on second Sundays, and a commitment to as much intergenerational work and opportunities for discipleship as possible. Here's the challenge. We are in a significant moment on a local and cultural scale where people are freshly seeking out stability and faith in community. And yet many of us are still hesitant to jump into new ministries that would welcome those people. It is essential that we boost our ranks in children, youth, and family leadership immediately. It is important to have a rotation of leadership not only to build relationships, but also to decrease the potential for burnout. If we want to have a church that welcomes families, then we are going to have to provide support to those families as we are all being called to do. So I hope you'll consider serving as a teacher or leader or catechist, and if you're interested or just want to learn more, please contact Mother Taylor. One area where children are involved frequently, and we see them all the time, is in our music program. And this last year has been a time of enormous change and transition in the music program. Since last Lent, the church has gone from holding virtual services online to live services with live streamed elements, and the choir has resumed activities in a provisional manner. We are on a trajectory toward reinducing the normal music model, though that may take some time to achieve fully. During the Easter season, our choirs resumed singing hymnody and anthems at out-of-door services. In the same period, our adult and youth choirs resumed live rehearsals outdoors. Our St. Nicholas Choir and Schola Cantorum were involved in recording a live sung Compline service, which was aired online at the 2021 summer course of the Royal School of Church Music. And there were so many comments made by people who were watching from around the country about seeing those kids singing alongside adults. It was really a joy to see. During the spring and summer, Dr. Campbell and Dr. Apple followed research on aerosol production and their part in the spread of the coronavirus. A national study sponsored by the University of Colorado provided the main evidence used to create national standards for safe singing during the 2021-2022 school year. We developed specific criteria for our own rehearsals and services, including masking, using efficient masks, rehearsing in multiple spaces, limiting rehearsal period length, and so on. In coordination with the Friends of Music, we arranged for a publication of a liturgical music guide that covered First Sunday music and evensong throughout the year. The Friends of Music board realized that a hiatus was needed as not enough volunteers were available to fill needed positions. Also, it became evident that the current model for offering concerts is not sustainable as we've been doing it. So a transition committee was formed to study the matter, and it was decided that FOM would take a break from operating for the 2021-2022 year as a committee helping with supporting our music ministries take shape and forms. Dr. Apple and Dr. Campbell envisioned an alternative model for concerts that involves fewer, more organic concerts that involve our choirs as well, and that connect more naturally to the church year. So 2 concerts were initially slated for the school year in November and in May. As the new school year began, we resumed live in-person rehearsals with adults and youth. We implemented the aforementioned safety protocols and had good results during the fall term. Our choristers seem relieved to be returning to in-person singing and services, and we have had good attendance. And I will say, as a parent of one of the choristers, our son was certainly relieved to be returning to in-person singing. Even so, we have had to combine the adult choirs into a single group, and we have created a new choir schedule that divides service responsibilities between adults, youths, and lay clerks. Dr. Apple implemented our First Sunday music strategy, modifying the schedule when elements had to be adjusted with current COVID conditions. We moved forward with the First Sunday music events in October, All Souls and All Saints in November, December, and on Christmas Eve. We have worked to keep live stream services in place that include our choral and instrumental offerings. This has involved an ongoing and rigorous process covering copyrights in a streamed environment through various licensing protocols. We're hoping to invite the Latvian composer Eric Eschenwalds in the fall to premiere his new composition, the St. Philip's Missa Brevis, which Corky Gabbert and the Friends of Music have commissioned. With Bonnie Wynn, we have made plans for the 3rd UK choral residency at Wells Cathedral for June and July of 2022. This is a large project and has involved significant fundraising. At this juncture, we anticipate moving forward with the residency as the COVID situation continues to improve. Dr. Apple and Dr. Campbell have begun to meet with members of a newly forming music commission, which is focusing its attention on publicity and hospitality for the Arvo Pärt concert on May 22nd. The group has already put an effective plan together which will serve as a template for future musical events. This committee will eventually provide ongoing support to the music department as it plans concerts, raises funds, maintains and repairs instruments, and publishes musical guides each year. It is composed of choir members, music supporters, and folks with specific skills that will serve musical needs at St. Philip's. One area that has resumed some in person this year and even more online is our formation programming. Among other things, we have maintained for nearly 2 years a weekly Bible study, now facilitated each Thursday morning at 10 a.m. by Deacon Susan Erickson. The first week of June 2021, we resumed Mosaic Community Night after a long hiatus, with weekly gatherings that were initially online and then hybrid, and now again for the time being only online. We gather Wednesday evenings for prayer, fellowship, and opportunities to grow in our faith. One day soon, we hope to begin sharing meals again as part of the evening as we did before. And currently we're working our way through portions of the prayer book to explore its story and how it can serve as a guide to the spiritual life. Mother Mary continues to facilitate the monthly group Meet God at the Movies, along with Mother Paula Barker. The ground of our formation as Christians is by regular prayer, corporate and personal, and receiving the Eucharist, and we, of course, continue to gather on Sundays, formed by that encounter with Christ in the sacrament. On the horizon, there are two opportunities for small group fellowship and formation. First is EFM, Education for Ministry. It's a program of practical theology based in a set of 5 core practices: community building, regular prayer and worship, theological reflection, the study of Christian tradition, and vocational discernment to form and support us in the various ministries to which we are called. EFM seminar groups have been supported by and meeting at St. Philip since the late 1970s. And being a participant, you would learn how to articulate your faith and with others shape your faith into action. And you will have the opportunity to become involved in ministries in the community and to make a difference. I'm looking forward to those restarting soon. Second is another kind of small group. We're looking at some models of small group ministry from other parts of the church. The affiliate clergy and deacons are currently looking closely at a small group program based on the book, The Restoration Project. And our hope is to develop an organic small group ministry that will allow folks to look more deeply at their life of faith together and to grow in deeper relationship with one another. Of course, as I mentioned, our primary formation takes place in worship and in liturgy together. From the second Sunday after Christmas, January 3rd, until Palm Sunday, March 28th, we continue to pre-record and stream Sunday liturgies of morning prayer. Palm Sunday was the last pre-recorded liturgy before we transitioned back to in-person worship. On Maundy Thursday, April 1st, we recommenced in-person worship, observing the Triduum Holy Week together, and offering 6 outdoor Easter morning services in the Children's Courtyard and Columbarium Garden and in the Labyrinth. We celebrated a baptism at the Great Vigil of Easter and 2 on Easter Sunday. We celebrated Comfy Space for the first time in person on April 11th, for the first time since March 8th of 2020. And there were 2 baptisms there. On the 3rd Sunday of Easter, Bishop Redall came to visit St. Philip's, and she confirmed Chris Campbell at 8 a.m. and celebrated the 12-step liturgy at 10 a.m. All through the year, we have marked various feasts with great dedication. One of those was the Feast of St. Matthew on September 21st, when the weekly healing Mass resumed for the first time in person since March of 2020. Mother Jean Rogers retired from leadership after nearly 20 years. Although she asked not to have any special recognition, we gifted her an icon of St. Raphael the Archangel with notes of gratitude from her flock. After several months of transition, I'm happy to say that Mother Joanna Sartorius has assumed leadership and pastoral care of the Healing Eucharist community. After resuming in-person worship in April, we renewed the pre-pandemic schedule of Sunday liturgies at 7:45 and 10, which we maintained until October, when we returned to 3 Sunday morning services. Our observances of All Saints and All Souls were especially poignant this year, and I am thankful to Father Scott Gunn, who was our guest preacher. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day were also lovely, and after a lot of anxiety about what COVID protocols we were going to use, it was a real joy to be back in person. One interesting trend to note that day is that the children's pageant was by far our largest service of the day. That's probably for the first time ever, and certainly COVID realities have impacted that. But I think it says something about generational transition of the church that our 2 family services at 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. Were our largest services on Christmas Eve. Figures for the last year, we offered 132 in-person Sunday services from April through December. And we offered 339 online services, weekday services, all through the year. That's 339 opportunities during the week that people had a chance to connect with their faith community. Of course, a critical aspect of connection in community is pastoral care. And we are still coming to terms with the immense loss of life from COVID in the nation and the world and in our parish. And I think that's why the annual All Souls Requiem remained an important facet of our ministry of prayer for the departed. Each month, we also offer a Requiem Mass for members, families, and friends who have gone on to their reward. You can keep an eye out in the bell and tower for announcements. On the last Friday of each month, there's an in memoriam article in the bell and tower, which lists the names of our members who died in the month prior and in the same month 1 year ago. Some things that are on the horizon. One important ministry now underway is an expanded pastoral care outreach to our large population of parishioners who are 80 years or older. That's 226 parishioners. We have 55 parishioners in their 90s and 5 parishioners over the age of 100. Deacon Tom Lindell and many of our caregivers are connecting with parishioners on an ongoing basis to strengthen our fellowship and to support those in need. Our pastoral care visitors, Eucharistic ministers, and clergy made over 970 visits to those who are ill, homebound, or otherwise isolated. I am immensely thankful for that team that makes this work possible, especially to Father Peter and Deacon Tom. If you're interested in sharing in this and so many of the other caring ministries like the prayer partners, Eucharistic visitors, prayer shawl knitters, condolence writers, you can contact Tom or Peter to learn more. And finally, I want to give a special thanks in the realm of care to Carol Jones, Bill Howe, and all the members of our health cabinet. They have done an incredible amount of work this year as we have navigated COVID. Their guidance along the way has been crucial to making the most informed decisions we can regarding protocols and health in the community. You'll hear in all of this a lot of change and a lot of continuity. We decided this was going to be a good time for us to gather and reflect both on how ministry had gone through the last couple of years and to begin to plan for the future. So on Saturday, the 30th of October, the vestry and I engaged in 5 hours of discussion in a format called the Mutual Ministry Review. This MMR is an opportunity to listen, hear, and consider insights related to topics of concern for the church. The Reverend Canon Joanna Sartorius facilitated this discussion. We were asked to consider how we could deepen our knowledge and love of God in a few different areas. First, in worship and witness, second, in community, third, through service, fourth, through how we take care of our facilities, fifth, through communication, sixth, through stewardship and financial planning, and finally, through in-reach, outreach, and hospitality. We were not asked to problem solve, but rather to identify goals, needs, and opportunities for our work as a vestry as we plan and chart the future. And I'll go through a couple of the areas we talked about. In worship, we talked about music and that it was well prepared, and the well-conducted liturgies were noted areas of strength. We have a menu of worship options, and online worship has become important to many. The needs in worship include probably an emphasis on having all ages contribute to worship services intergenerationally, and having more people able to volunteer to participate in services as readers, acolytes, subdeacons, etc. We should also consider the ways in which we can invite and encourage people to be more involved in worship in other ways as well. And while the contributions to worship by families and children are encouraging, it's probably time for us to consider what it would mean to create a sort of more fully intentional family service, incorporating elements of comfy space and other intergenerational service elements into our regular Sunday morning services. I think all of us have loved seeing the children readers that began during the pandemic, and that's one example of how we can create a sort of more intentionally intergenerational worship together. We recognize that St. Philip's is a community of communities. That is, that there are communities formed by the choirs, those who are not in choir, those who attend 7:45 or 9 or 11:15 or comfy space, or the afternoon services, come and see, or the 5:30 Eucharist. And I think one of our opportunities going forward is to figure out how to make sure folks who are in one of those communities really get to know one another and get to be in community and in relationship together in ways that aren't always easy when we have such disparate schedules. Another area we talked about at the Mutual Ministry Review was servant leadership. And coming back to that point about being a community of communities, we need more intergroup and parish-wide communication. This is always a need in every nonprofit and in every church, but I think one of the opportunities for us going forward is to figure out how do we create clearer opportunities for people to learn about what's going on here and how they can be involved. There's also probably a need for training on how to have some difficult conversations or communications where inter or intra-group conflicts arise, sort of focusing on how we respect and love one another while holding different opinions, and how do we make love primary as a community. I think we need to do a better job, frankly, of recognizing people's efforts and thanking them. And we recognize that there is a core of people who cycle through various committees and leadership positions, but there is a perceived kind of void in terms of leadership ranks beneath that cohort. So there's a need for planning and strategy to bring new people to the table. And there's also, frankly, a need for more people to do more things. So I think sort of creating opportunities for folks to pledge their time in sort of more discrete and more defined ways, so folks can learn how they can be a part of supporting an event or a class or something and not feel like every time they volunteer, they're locked into serving for life in a committee that will be their lasting legacy for all time. As a community as a whole, I think we encourage friendliness and welcoming and diversity, but there is a recognition that we lack racial diversity. So one of the questions is, how do we address that? How do we acknowledge that gap in our community, and what do we do to build a community that looks more like the wider community around us and the church at large? There is a difficulty in terms of incorporating new people into the life of the parish, and that's a kind of ongoing theme, and it's an ongoing opportunity in large parishes in particular. So one of the things we've done in response to this is begun meetings on second Sundays, where there's a newcomer gathering every second Sunday with me, with newer members. And even as COVID has separated us, we recognize we need to work on overcoming any gaps or lack of connection, and that a lot of folks are craving those opportunities to connect as we come back together. I'm really pleased that Liz Wood, Sally Gunderman, and Kathy Harvey have agreed to form a welcome committee for new members, and I'm delighted that they have started helping me with those gatherings on second Sundays, and are going to be looking for opportunities to help people connect and feel more welcome here. Another area that we looked at in the mutual ministry review was how we take care of our facilities. Frankly, the parish is not big enough to hire all outside contractors to take care of everything at the facility, but we are not small enough to have everything done by volunteers all the time. So finding some balance between professional assistance and encouraging more volunteers to step forward is going to be crucial as we go forward. I'm, as always, thankful for the support that Preservation and Endowment offers, providing crucial financial support for the care of the facilities here. And there's currently a plan being developed with a donor to do some work on the campus that will help address our long-term sustainability. We talked about not just taking care of our facilities in terms of how they're maintained, we also talked about how to build in more opportunities for prayer, contemplation, worship, and spiritual connection in various parts of our campus. Part of that is creation care, part of that is accessibility too. How do we ensure that all people can access all parts of our campus? So all those principles will help guide our questions about the campus going forward. And there are opportunities for us to make the parish more visible to the outside community, to be a place where visitors to Tucson want to come. And we do that in some ways now, sort of offering art shows, music events, and things like that. But I think there's an opportunity for us to build on that as well, and to use our facility for what they can often be, which is our most visible evangelist in the community. Another area we talked about in the mutual ministry review was communication. This is always a topic that comes up in nonprofits and in churches, and it has come up again, and especially because COVID was such a kind of stark reminder of the digital divide. We want to make sure that we're finding ways to help all people find information about how to be involved here. So we are forming a communication committee that will be composed of intergenerational members who can help us to begin to shape ongoing communications in ways that are tailored to the needs of different groups of people. Of course, the Bell and Tower, the Daily Bread continued all through the pandemic and continue now. Announcement pages are distributed with the bulletin, but there is still a need for more communication. And so we're going to try and figure out how we make that happen without overwhelming people with duplicative information. We use social media with some regularity, but our last post on Instagram was in 2018. We use Facebook probably the most, but there are some opportunities, I think, with social media to do more there, and I'm looking forward to the communication committee looking at those opportunities. One of the things that we've talked about that needs more transparency is how decisions are made. So for example, how do we provide more opportunities for folks to understand the work of the vestry and how it's proceeding? How do we make sure that people understand decisions that are made regarding staffing, budgeting, mission? So we've tried to increase the amount of communication that comes from the staff and from the vestry. You'll have noticed, I hope, a monthly report in Bell and Tower from the vestry that reports on the previous vestry meeting. I hope you'll also have noticed that I write a weekly now, actually twice weekly. I write a piece on Fridays as part of the Bell and Tower and a Daily Bread piece on Sundays, and began doing that during the pandemic and plan to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. Another area that we talked about in the MMR was stewardship and ongoing financial support. There are 1,600-ish members of St. Philip's, and there are about 385 last year, pledging members or families. You can see the disparity there between having a community of 1,600 people who require care and who all view this as their church home, but having a giving base of 400 creates a gap between what we're able to do for that wide community and the support we have from a smaller group of committed folks. So I think being clearer about what it means to pledge and what that support does in the community is going to be crucial. With that said, we have made an enormous progress in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, our pledging was $685,000, and we spent $385,000 out of reserves to make the operating budget possible, to make it work. This year, pledging will be, right now, is about $970,000. And we will not have to draw from reserves to make operations possible. So we've made progress, but we also know that there is more to be done. We talked about the need for a receptionist in the office. We recognize there are other needs in the facility. So there are going to be opportunities for us moving forward. We're also operating with 3 clergy right now, down from 5 just not so long ago. There are things that are not going to get done that people will remember fondly. And so I think thinking about how do we build financial sustainability to make that possible, and also to expand the ways we can serve in the wider community is going to be crucial. Part of that is going to be the encouragement of smaller pledges, smaller giving, and helping folks grow those over time. And then, the basic concept of giving, that time, talent, and treasure are all ways which we give to the church. There are, as you heard, a need for volunteers in a variety of aspects of parish life. And one of the questions we'll have to ask is, if folks don't want to volunteer to do some of those things, then do folks want those things to happen? And so we're going to have to sort of be clear about what we're able to do with the time, talent, treasure that we have. And finally, we talked about sort of fulfilling our mission and talking about sort of developing and articulating a mission that takes COVID into account. What has changed in the last 2 years? What do we need to update in terms of how we move forward? How do we clearly articulate that? And how can that mission guide sort of all the choices we make over the next couple of years? Because the needs outside of our walls are endless, and so we are going to have to focus in order to meet as many of those needs as we possibly can. So of course that naturally leads to talk of a strategic plan. In 2019, strategic goals were adopted by the vestry that included the following: that we would support individual spiritual growth for people of all ages, encourage and help programs and ministries become multi-generational, expand and improve outreach efforts, train, manage, and reward volunteers, and promote our strengths to the unchurched and retirees new to Tucson. You can pause to take a drink too if you like. Recognizing that COVID has changed things for churches and for our church, it seems a good time to engage in a process of renewed strategic planning. So the vestry will take a look at those strategic goals from 2019 and update them to plan for our next several years. Part of doing that effectively is going to be having good data. So some of you will remember that we did the renewal work survey a number of years ago, a little over 4 years ago, which provided a wonderful sort of resource for us to have a survey of the congregation and a kind of snapshot of our spiritual vitality. We made a number of formation decisions like starting Bible studies, Mosaic, the daily breads, all those things sort of came out of the renewal work survey data. So we're going to do another round of renewal work sometime in the coming year, and I'm excited to see what's changed, what hasn't changed, what new needs have arisen, and that will help guide some of those strategic decisions I talked about. A key part of that strategic planning effort is going to be campus planning. What is our campus mission plan, essentially? We have had generous support from a donor who is funding the initial stages of a campus mission plan. This is a master plan that would address current and long-term needs. It would include some long-held goals like the restoration of La Parroquia, addressing repair and restoration needs in the Labyrinth Garden, correcting drainage issues in the Fish Pond Garden, making it more accessible, an eventual expansion of the Columbarium, and more. A small group, including representatives of Preservation and Endowment, Buildings and Grounds, wardens, and staff members, has been meeting regularly for most of this past year to help begin to draw a plan together. Next steps include conversations with various leadership groups like Preservation and Endowment, Ministry Endowment and Funds Trust, and others, to develop some of the concepts more fully and to get a sense of what the further needs are that we may not have considered. So in that vein, we will gather small groups of parishioners together, and you'll be able to sign up for those groups when we make those announcements, so that they can share their hopes for the campus and how we can ensure that it remains a place of dynamic welcome and peaceful retreat for generations to come. Our goal is to find a sustainable way to care for all that we have and to ensure that the campus is ready for mission for the decades ahead. Part of that work is also looking toward our reserve study to better coordinate long-term maintenance and repair needs. I am grateful as always for the support and dedication of Preservation, Endowment, Buildings and Grounds, and others in this work. A part of this effort is going to be the development of a video that is being put together on the history of the parish and campus. A generous donor is making that possible, and Ken Hinkle has been working with parishioners on putting together a lot of information, stories, and history for us all to learn from. So we're looking forward to sharing that in the months ahead. One development that goes alongside some of this mission planning are mission teams. Bonnie Wynn, Mary Cutting, and Mother Mary Trainer have worked for several months with Mother Taylor on a pilot program that will be launching later this month. In cooperation with the vestry, this team has planning a structure to support each ministry area with a team of program advisors to work with a vestry liaison and staff contact. The program advisor will launch in the fall for the areas of music, welcome and membership, outreach, worship, communications, formation, and pastoral care. The pilot program will be children, youth, and families, which launches with a working retreat later this month. Small teams of program advisors will work with a vestry liaison and staff liaison for each ministry area for terms of 1 to 2 years. And our hope is that over the next few years, we can expand our ministry faithfully with increased lay leadership participation. With their help, we have some detailed goals. The effort will build a structure around each year's scope of work, budget, a review process, a system to recruit and support volunteers and advisors, support and evaluate current projects, and give scaffolding to encourage both new ministry proposals and long-term projects that need additional support. You'll hear in all of that a lot of transition, a lot of concern about how we support that which is in place. How do we do the work of discernment about what we're going to continue to support and what we need to let be re-envisioned or reinvigorated? And frankly, I just want to conclude where I began, with thanks. Thanks to God for calling this community together in love. Thanks to our Lord Jesus Christ for transforming us by his grace, and thanks to the Holy Spirit for sending us out to love and serve. Thanks to each and every one of you for being a part of this community. When so many people are asking themselves deep questions about what matters most to them, this is a place where many of you have found meaning, connection, and purpose. And now it is our opportunity to build on all that we have found here, all that has been passed on to us, and to share it with the community around us. The Carthusians have as their motto, "The cross is steady while the world turns." For me, that wonderful cross in the Perry Garden represents that motto. There at the center of our campus, while so much of the world seems to be spinning more and more out of control, there we can rest our hearts and our hope. For the cross is steady while the world turns. Thank you for being a part of this community in a time of so much turning. May we continue to be a place where our hope is found together in the steady, firm, and unchanging love of Christ. I'll conclude with a prayer from the service of consecration of a church in the Book of Common Prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, make this a temple of your presence and a house of prayer. Be always near us when we seek you in this place. Draw us to you when we come alone and when we come with others, to find comfort and wisdom, to be supported and strengthened, to rejoice and give thanks. May it be here, Lord Christ, that we are made one with you and with one another, so that our lives are sustained and sanctified for your service. Amen.